Hey guys, well, welcome to today's lesson brought to you by Alma and the team over at eReport. And I want to thank all of you for your comments, your emails. In fact, today's lesson is in direct response to an email we got from an eReport follower. His email message to me was a concern that he had about the right time of year to market his services. In fact, his big concern in his message to me was that he felt if he marketed his services at the wrong time of the year, well, that his name would be long forgotten by the time that his potential customer got around to hiring a lawn maintenance contractor. So I'm going to give you some tips today to follow that'll really help you have a great marketing campaign. Well, first and foremost, if I can drive one point home today, it is that there is no wrong time of year to market your services. In fact, most of you know that I'm a big-time baseball coach, and I live in the New England area. And when the wintertime comes, we're forced to train in the indoors for our baseball season if we're going to be better in the summer season. So we actually have t-shirts made up, and on the back of the t-shirts it says, "There is no off-season." Now I bring that up to you because there really is no off-season for your marketing campaign. So we're going to provide you with several tips today that you can follow to build not only a dependable campaign, but a very dynamic campaign that's going to really get you in touch with your potential prospects and help you actually establish a relationship with them before you actually submit those bids. First, before we actually get to the tips, I want to talk to you about the process of getting work in the pipeline. And what that means is getting as much potential work and meeting as many potential clients and customers as possible, having them in the pipeline for when you need them. You see, it's really difficult, if not chaotic, to go out and get work on demand when you actually need it. So you actually want to put work in the pipeline even when you don't really need the work. You actually have to have that process continue year round, year by year. One of the toughest things for me to get across when I'm talking to contractors is making them understand that it's okay to say no. You know, you can put a lot of work in the pipeline, and when a customer gets around to calling you, it might be the next season or a couple of years down the road, if you're not in a position to take on that work, or you're not looking to add on any work in your portfolio at the current time, you can always say no. There are no negative connotations to saying no to a customer. In fact, I always found the opposite. I always found that when a customer called me and I wasn't able to take on their work because I was too busy, that always kind of added a sense of intrigue to the mix. And I promise you when I tell you, you're going to go to the top of their list next time they're looking for a contractor. So it's really important that you constantly go out, market your services, put that work in the pipeline, and in the event they call you because you had a little too much in the pipeline down the road, you're not able to take on their work, you can always say no. Avoid those chaotic situations where you need work and you're scrambling to go out and find work because you really have no work in the pipeline. Okay, so how do we get the work in the pipeline? Well, let's start with tip number one, and it's really the golden rule. Never stop marketing your services. Market your services every day if possible. Remember, there is no off-season for your marketing campaign. Tip number two, and please take note of this because this is the most important tip of the day. It is imperative, very important, that you collect as much data as possible when you do call on a prospect. Make sure that you get the company name, you get the person's name in charge of administering that maintenance contract. Get phone numbers, contacts, emails, when that contract is going out to bid, all the different ancillary services. Are they all provided by one contractor? Do they use several contractors to make up that entire landscape maintenance program that they have? Collect as much data as you can when you get the opportunity to call on that prospect. Now, tip number three kind of goes along with tip number two a little bit, but it's really important. We're going to talk about email addresses. It's very important that you collect as many email addresses as possible. The email address is an extremely powerful and probably the most important piece of information you'll collect in your journey. Through email, remember that email costs you almost zero to market to people. It costs you money every time you send out a direct mail piece. It costs you money to go out there and do a cold call, drive to a property and cold call on them. It even costs you money to, during your workday, during business hours, to call on somebody. But via email, it's almost cost $0 to market, and it's so powerful. Not only can you send out simple text message, simple notes through email, but you can also send links to your websites and job photos and digital postcards and digital brochures. The possibilities are endless through email, and you want to make sure that you take advantage of it. Tip number four, and this is kind of picking up on the email again, you want to make sure that every few months or every couple of months you shoot an email to that prospect to make sure that that person that you originally were contacted with and the person that was in charge back at your original contact point is still the person in charge for administering that contact. In the corporate world, people and positions change really frequently, and sometimes your email addresses can get outdated very quickly. So don't be a pest, don't be a pain in the neck. I wouldn't do it every week or even every month, but every so often, depending on how far out you are before they start accepting those bids, just drop a little note, touch base, and make sure that you're still dealing with the same prospect. Now, our final tip, tip number 5, again, is kind of tied in with our previous tip. And it really gets back to what our initial emailer asked me about, the fear of being too early and being forgotten about in the process. You will not be forgotten about if you make periodic contact between the time you first met the prospect and the time they're accepting proposals. So if you get to somebody really early, or you just missed them and you got 10 or 11 months out before they're going to start entertaining taking bids again, then you want to make sure that you make contact every 2 or 3 months in between. Now, that's not being a pest, and you can really legitimize that contact. And again, it's really easy to do through email. Just a small text email, dropping them a little note, letting them know that you're really still interested in bidding the property. You look forward to that date coming up, and making sure that nothing's changed in the process. Sometimes they may have just hired a contractor, or maybe that contractor's not doing their job, and your little email message is really timely and comes at a point where maybe they're thinking about making a change. It's happened to me many, many times over. So don't feel like you're pestering them, as long as you're dropping very responsible, small, short messages every couple of months out in between that process. Not only will you not be forgotten about, but the great thing is you start to actually build a bond and form a relationship with this particular prospect before the proposals are even given out. It's happened to us many times in our family business that by the time we actually got an opportunity to present a proposal, we felt like we were friends with the prospect, and it's really turned into a lot of sales for us. So make sure that you take these tips, you use them to build a responsible campaign, and my biggest advice to you is really do it with vigor. Do it, be passionate about it. Market every day, do it responsibly, use email, use all the technology that's available to you today, and you're going to see it's going to be really easy for you to start driving sales to your bottom line. Till next time, guys.